We're ready.
Okay, you gonna kick it off?
Sure.
Independence Day, girl?
Yeah, we need like a do music or something.
That's the graduation song. What's the matter with you? I do have that. Hit stop, will you, for God's sake?
It's pomp and circumstance.
Making me think.
Okay. Welcome back to The She Show. I'm one of your hosts, Josie, with my pal.
I'm Lulu.
And today we are going to talk about all things independence.
Yes, 4th of July, as my father would say. Happy 4th of July. He loved America. He was a Greek immigrant. And he was happy to be here because he had nothing, dirt, poor, and America allowed him to start a business. And that's it. So we were all happy, that all those people did the independence, Declaration of Independence, created, here goes Lulu, soapbox. All men are created equal. All men are created equal. So that launches into what? Come on, Josie. Where am I going?
I don't know. You've lost me already.
Independence Day.
Yes.
Independence Day, but not for women.
Oh, well, yes. All men are created
All
equal.
men are created
Yes.
equal.
I had a feeling that's where you were going, but I was waiting.
You're waiting for me to just blurt it out.
I was just waiting.
I ain't shy.
No, I know that. I was just waiting. So, yes, obviously, 4th of July, we began celebrating, I guess we probably celebrated for the first time in 1777, since we signed it in 1776. Although, do you think after signing it, we had a big party?
Yeah, they did. They all rocked themselves out in Boston.
Okay.
They had some kind of party.
Party in the USA, as my pal Miley
Yeah,
Cyrus
probably
would say.
in, the Old North Church. They probably lit a couple of candles. Drank some whiskey behind the scenes. Yeah, lit each other up. I don't know. Well, actually, they were all pretty intellectual men who got it together.
So you're saying they
were brave enough to sign it.
You're saying they were reserved and they didn't let their big knee-high socks down and
Probably
kick up their
not.
heels?
Probably not. But there's
Rip
always
the
like
wigs off?
probably a couple of English pubs maybe opened up.
I bet. That might be some history we gotta research.
I think I didn't even think of that. We should look that up.
We should look that up.
Did they open a keg and go nuts? Did they have kegs?
I don't know.
I don't
They
know.
had barrels because we know they had barrels. Like threw those off.
Right, so they had
the
barrels.
shed.
They
Yeah.
must have had kegs.
I guess.
British pubs, all that.
Yeah.
Fry some cod. That's probably what they did. Fried some cod and drank some beer.
They celebrated their unalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and our final piece, the control of all women.
The control of all women. Glory, hallelujah.
Can I get an amen?
Yes.
As you can tell,
Well, they don't call it the She Show for nothing.
That's right. I was going to say, as you can tell, we are both ladies who feel very strongly about women's rights. And I especially wanted to talk to my pal Lulu about this today because she grew up at a very special time in our country's history, having grown up during the big revolutions of the 1960s and
70s, 80s, 90s, till now. It is an evolution of the women's movement. So I did a little research earlier just to sort of see when this all began and get some facts straight, you know. So an article was written basically which would raise the question, are women equal to men under the law?
Ooh,
okay. So this is like post-World War II. This is women in post-World War II. If you were married, under the law, a man could force his wife to have sex, and it was not considered rape, because basically women were property. I'll just expound that a little bit. And if you were not married, you were under the rule of your father. That is just the way it was back then. The second thing, if you married women, all purchases belonged to the husband. So, if you left, you had nothing. You had no rights.
Right.
All property, all money, everything was your husband's, not you. And a married woman could not get a credit card. Now, I know that firsthand because my father owned a grocery store in Dorchester. My mother paid the bills and, did everything, took care of the household, the 5 children she had and everything else, and she wrote the bills. And she had credit cards, but guess what?
They were in your father's name.
She used to forge his name all the time, Sam. I won't say the last name, but
Sam is a woman's name as well.
Yes, no. Well, it was Samuel, and she had it down pat. I don't think he could even, his signature was hers.
Okay.
Because she signed everything. So I don't know if he had his own.
Right.
But so that, raised the question of this article sort of was the stem of how the women's movement got started, especially in the 60s.
Okay, so let's rewind just for a quick second before we get into that. So let's talk about the right to vote. That was probably the first step in women becoming people outside of being either daughters or wives. And that was hard fought since the late 1800s till we gained the right finally in 1919. But we still didn't have basic rights. But we could vote. So that's...
You could vote, but that's like a whole nother show.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that was, there was a big movement to push...
hey, they accomplished that.
So what that says to me is, so the big movement to push to vote was so that women would not be property and could put elected officials in that would open up other basic human rights that they were supposed to be getting and weren't because they were still considered property. And we're going to continue talking about the women's rights movement after World War II, so we'll say 1940s, more really strong, I would say 1960s, 1970s.
Yep.
So from 1919 until then, it was another 20, 40 years before we were even granted basic rights like men had.
Well, it's a controversial subject, but, basically you couldn't work. You were at home. You couldn't work really and truly. If you did, you were, I go back to my family. That's how I grew up. So I know my mother and her sister basically worked in their sister's husband's, what was it? It was a bakery. They were sent there by their father to make money, and my mother gave all her money to her father. Worked in this bakery, took care of the sister's children, not because my aunt wanted it, because her husband was a tyrant, pretty much, yeah. He was what they call it was a good marriage. She was 16 and he was 26, 28.
Oh, wow.
Good marriage because he had money, he had a business, he was a good provider.
Right.
The rest of it didn't matter. I mean, that's the way women accepted things.
Right.
A lot of marriages, especially in Greek culture and other European cultures, were arranged. And even, I don't know, probably back in Ben Franklin's days they were too. I don't know, possibly. So, that was sort of that was a woman's life. And women did start, even my mother, one time, I remember in the 70s, my mother wanted to go visit her relatives in San Francisco. And my brother, John, worked for the government and he could travel and all of that. So he was going to take her on a business trip with him, and she was going to stay with the relatives. Well, my father didn't want her to go because he was like, who was going to take care of him was what he said, So my mother called him a chauvinist. I tried to correct her, but that was her declaration of independence that day.
So did she go?
Yes, she did. She called him a chauvinist, and she said, "I'm going."
That's great.
My mother's independent. So that's going to bring me, if I could transition to the 60s. Another thing is in 1963, one of the founders of the National Organization for Women was Betty Friedan, if I have the last name correct. I can't read my own handwriting. And she wrote The Feminine Mystique.
Oh, yes, I've heard of this. Mm-hmm.
So that sort of like started to stir the vocal side of women. Mm-hmm. So the women's movement sort of really began then. And for me personally, in 1963, I was a lovely 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. And one of the songs I sang really loud and clear, which became one of women's national anthems, is You Don't Own Me by Leslie Gore, which was released in 1963. So if you would permit me, I'm going to read some of those lyrics. I'll try not to sing because I don't have the best voice in the world, but you probably know them.
I think it's the song, it's featured in Dirty Dancing, if I'm not mistaken. But go ahead and read me the lyrics.
You Don't Own Me is featured in a lot of
Don't
movies.
try and tell me what to do.
You don't own me. I'm not just one of your many toys. You don't own me. Don't say I can't go with other boys. Now, this was very melodic.
I
You
do
don't
know this
own me. Very soft.
Yes, I do
Don't
know
say I
this.
can't go. But the lyrics are pretty powerful. And don't tell me what to do. Don't tell me what to say. And please, when I go out with you, don't put me on display. Because you don't own me. Don't try to change me in any way. Now, that's pretty powerful for the 60s, even though it's like, you don't know me. I'm just not one of your many toys. It was sweet, but powerful. Mm-hmm. And it got really raucous at the end.
She builds, I was going to say there's like a crescendo toward the end where she's really singing up there.
She's yelling, I'm young and I love to be young. I'm free and I love to be free. And we used to all knock that out of the park. But I don't think it really sunk in until the 60s movement, watching it on TV and all of that. When people started marching, women started to organize, the National Organization for Women. So, that was the 60s, and there's a couple other songs that had great impact on me. 67 was Respect by Aretha. It was written by a guy, but she sort of commanded the lyrics in a different way. Mm-hmm. The Aretha Franklin song that she wrote with Ted White was Think, and that was a big song, okay? That was her telling her husband, if you don't straighten up, things are going to change. Her lyrics was, at the end, she goes, freedom, 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 oh, freedom. But it's, I ain't no psychiatrist, I ain't no doctor with degrees, but it don't take too much high IQ to see what you're doing to me, so you better think. And she really powered that out. So that's songs that were impacted. So I could go to the 70s, but, what you got to say, Mike Josie?
Well, I can't say much about the 60s because I was not even a speckle in my parents' eyes. My parents were born in 1960 and 1961, so that didn't have a lot of...
They're much younger than me.
And the fact that, they were very young in the 60s, I don't think that the 60s impacted them a whole lot. But the 70s for sure, and the music in the 70s. So why don't we just march forward a decade and see what's going on in the 70s with women's rights and
along with the women's movement, the sort of the NOW organization, sort of got threatened by the radicals. A lot of women came forward that said, "Hey, that's not good enough. Women are still being molested, raped." Black women's movement got intertwined with that. So there was a demand for the NOW organization to get more marches, more, impact, for women to have a voice. And really, the whole movement was started for women to have rights, equal rights with men.
Right.
That was the movement.
Let's talk about what those are just really briefly, because I actually looked this up. Because I was
Excellent,
curious,
Josie.
when we say things about what are basic women's rights, what were they really asking for? These include the right to live free from violence and discrimination, to enjoy the highest attainable standard of physical and mental health, to be educated, to own property, to vote, and to earn an equal wage. I almost said rage. It did make us rageful that we weren't
Rage.
getting these things.
Well, rage is coming up in music. We know that.
Yes, we do. So when we are talking about basic women's rights, this is what these pioneers of the movements
And
were
that was
fighting
in the
for.
60s, or
This starts back in the before then.
probably before then.
Before
but,
then.
it became really, women started to organize.
And it was considered, it was recognized as a second wave of feminism, actually, when
Yeah,
we were
makes sense.
doing this in the 60s and 70s. So there you go. I just wanted to be very clear on what we're talking about when we say rights, because I think in today's culture, we argue for things as rights that were not part of the original discussion on what rights are, and maybe
Right.
they should be, and we're going to talk about that more as time goes on, and I have no problem with that. That's what amendments are for.
when you read a woman's right to basically be safe,
Yes. and-
basically not to be raped.
yeah, when you were saying the man could
Seriously.
just take you whenever he wanted,
That was,
that's not right.
That's why, that impacted me a lot, because
Mm-hmm.
it was women had no legal rights.
Right.
No legal rights.
Well, let's talk about this. So you were in your young 20s going into the 70s, right?
Yes, I was in my 20s in college in the 70s. So, yeah.
So did you get involved in any marches, movements? What were you up to?
I didn't get involved in marches and movements on campus, because I lived on campus. But there were a lot of classes that I took, and a lot of things became sort of like, one of the classes I took was about racism, sexism, those kind of things, which was an eye-opener, an awareness thing.
Okay.
Because still, it's like, hey, want to talk about college life back in the 60s? It's 70s. It probably still goes on now. It's like, you're going to where? Friday night, Saturday night, I'm a freshman, and, I live in a floor with all seniors. So they're like, come on, we're going to go, to the any kind of frat is having a party. And that was scary.
Yeah.
I was a sheltered kid.
Right.
I came in from a sheltered family, old-fashioned family. So 18, 19 years old, I'm in some kind of crazy frat house, and I'm by myself. And for some reason, it was still dress up a little bit. And, the jeans were in, all the bell bottoms. It's great clothes, hip huggers. I had a 20-inch waist back then, so it was good. It was good. I ain't even going to go where it is now. Not good. But, I was wearing a dress and high heels because I was on a date at this frat party. 19 years old. I say that because all of a sudden, I didn't have an experience. I had no sexual experience then. I trusted. I was sheltered. I find myself in his room.
Uh-oh.
He's like, come to my room. And there's 3 other guys sitting there.
Oh,
well, alarm bells went off in my head.
Yeah, flashing lights, sirens.
I'm like, well, I got to go to the restroom. And I ran, and it's like winter. And all I could say is it was a downhill slope. I'll never forget it. I'm bringing back memories to me. So I ran down this hill, because I didn't want to go out the front entrance onto the street.
Right.
Ran down this hill, nearly killed myself in my heels,
Oh, my goodness.
and basically ran all the way home. I was scared to death. Nothing happened, but it was not a good scenario. You have a bunch of young guys drinking beer, getting drunk, and, it's not a good scenario.
Right. Yeah, good on you for running down that hill.
I was always like, help. Well, going to take care of me but me.
Well, yeah.
I was a feisty kid. I still am a feisty woman. So I'm going to transition into the next song that impacted me.
Okay.
Which is now I'm graduated from college. It's the 70s. Okay, I have a job. 76, 77. I have a boyfriend now. I'll just say nice man, but breakup wasn't good. Break up many times. Go back. stupid stuff
Where
to me.
was Taylor Swift when
Well,
you needed
I,
her?
you know, and even then, I thought I was an emancipated woman. I thought, hey, one of my rules was, a man ever hit me, I was gone. Well, he slapped me and I stayed.
Oh, yeah, that's
That
not good.
had a big impact on me because I was ashamed that I did. It sort of launches into why women are stay in abusive relationships. And that, if you ask this person, they would tell you, hey, he had every right to hit me, thought I was cheating on him. So, what's the big deal?
Well, in the Bible, if you believe this, if a man, this is Old Testament stuff, this is very brief, I don't mean to derail us, but if a man thought his wife was guilty of cheating, the priest, a Levite, would mix up this like sludge, nasty stuff, and she would have to drink it. Now, if she got sick, she was guilty and she cheated on her husband,
excellent.
and she would either succumb to boils and nasty stuff or die. If she didn't get sick from drinking this poisonous, nasty concoction, then she was innocent. And the man, he's absolved for feeling jealous and envious, and they had to make sure. I'm not even making that up. I wish I was.
I know. It's like it's shocking. So I know there's a lot of men, especially these days, and even in my generation, because they were through the 60s and 70s also, that understand why women feel the way they do. But there's a lot of men who are totally threatened by the women's movement and call them bra burning, any kind of swear bitch, whatever word they could come up with. So if you told a man no, when I was in my dating days back in the 70s, in the sexual revolution, I was not the type who was going to sleep with everybody. So you didn't so they just dumped you.
Right.
If you didn't sleep with somebody, they dumped you. Part of the whole sexual revolution was also like, a guy could get laid anywhere he wanted. Why the hell would he date you?
Yes, and you needed to be a virgin going into the marriage, by the way.
Yeah, isn't that? I don't know if it's a double standard. I think it's like a FU standard.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're like a slutty girl, you're allowed to sleep with those men. But if you're, not, you had to save yourself from it. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I don't know. I think in a lot of ways it did liberate women to, which I understand totally. So it sort of changed the game a little bit. So women started behaving like men, which was a lesson to men. In other words, women started saying, hey, you know what? I don't want to marry you either. Guess what? I'll date you once or twice and, I'll call you.
Right.
So women started adopting more of a male attitude towards dating and sex, which is like, I'm not sitting around waiting because that's what women did. You couldn't, in those days, very few women asked men out. You had to wait. So you got what came to you. You didn't have a choice.
Right.
The choice, in your dating days, it was more open. But the song that, after this sort of breakup, because of that situation and because I was so angry at myself, was I Will Survive.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's an anthem. Gloria Gaynor, 1978, which is just probably the best lyrics ever, At first I was afraid. It was a great disco song, too, a great dance song. I screeched that in my basement apartment. I was petrified. Keep thinking I could never live without you by my side, but then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong, and I grew strong. And I learned how to get along, and now you're back. Favorite lyrics from outer space. I just walked in to find you here with that sad look upon your face. This was my life. Oh, honey, come on back. I didn't mean it. I should have changed that stupid lock. I should have made you leave your key. If I had known for just 1 second, you'd be back to bother me. So go on. Get out that door.
Just
turn around because you're not welcome anymore. Powerful. This is the 70s. That's really awakening. Far-fetched, far distant from old Leslie, which was the beginning in 1963.
Yeah.
Now we're getting bold. Now we're getting mad. Okay?
Yep.
Okay, girl. Now we're entering sort of like, when were you born? You were born in the 80s.
Yeah, I was born in the 80s, but I was born in 1985, so I don't think the 80s had as much impact on me as probably the 90s. I also lived in Germany in those early years. So I was born in California. We were there like a year maybe, and then Virginia, and then we were in Germany for 4 years. So by the time I came back to the States, it was the 90s. And I don't know how much the German culture reflected the United States culture of the time. We were watching Berlin Wall come down over there. I don't know what was going on over here.
Well, it's a whole different life because you weren't really, were you like an American woman or...
Was I? I am.
I'm an
all-American
in Germany,
woman.
how did you feel?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny. I felt just like a normal kid because we lived.
Oh, you were a kid.
Yeah,
so.
we lived off post, and we went and toured a lot of places while we were there. We went to like 14 countries, and I didn't know any of the languages. People around us were speaking, and we were like very insulary. It was just the four of us, just doing stuff together. So it didn't...
Military.
Military thing. So I don't really... I can't add to the 80s so much except for my mom loved Madonna. So I grew up listening to Madonna and...
Talk about, a woman who took control of her life.
Yeah, so...
Who asserted her power.
We can
Madonna
talk about
was
her.
a big one.
And the other big one was like Stevie Nicks, Fleetwood Mac, because my mom's a huge fan of them. So I listened to Fleetwood Mac a lot as well. So I don't really have a whole lot to add to the 80s experience here, but...
Well, I got a couple.
All right, let's hear it.
I got actually one really good, Take Your Power song, which I just watched the video, and I didn't even realize what was in the video. It's so cool. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Bad Reputation, 1980. Okay? So, the lyrics, right? I don't give a damn about my bad reputation. Living in the past, it's a new generation.
That's right.
A girl can do what she wants to do, and that's what I'm going to do. And I don't give a damn about my bad reputation. No, not me. And she screams, and it's a big guitar song. The video, very interesting, because shows like Joan Jett goes into a club and gets thrown out. And there's all like subtitles in this video. It's great. And the guy's yelling at her, and it says, "Come back when you're dressed like a lady."
I want to say, if it wasn't that one, it was another one, but Michael J. Fox was in one of those music videos with her, and I was really excited.
Was he?
About
Oh my
that.
God.
Yes.
What the heck was Michael J. Fox doing in
I
Joan
don't know,
Jett?
but I love Michael J. Fox, so I was really excited about that. I'm going to have to look that up after this and tell you which one that was. But at any rate, yes, Joan Jett's great. Love her.
Yeah, big song. And the interesting visual things is she put her life into it, which I had no idea what Bad Reputation was really about. She was denied by 23 record companies, said no to her big ones, EMI, Chrysalis, all of that, until she finally said, so is all this execs with thumbs down and all that, throw her out. Mm-hmm. She gets a big hit with her first song, and now that ends with all the execs dancing to her song because she's making money.
Love it.
So yeah, she was definitely rock and roll type. Madonna was, epitome of sexual freedom for a woman. Mm-hmm. Epitome of it, I remember the first time I saw her, sex book. I forget what the hell she called it, but,
I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Really?
Yeah,
no, she published this, book.
Okay.
Where she was, naked and,
No, I have not seen that.
Oh, yeah, she was all into, and then she started saying, well, I've, slept with women, and it was called Truth or Dare. That's what I'm thinking. It was based off her concert.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
So she had, in this film, she'd show clips of her concert, I can't think of a lot of Madonna songs that exhibit what I'm saying with her sexual
Virgin?
Freedom. Yeah, yeah.
That's a big one.
Well,
that
that's a
jumps to
sweet
mind.
song, Like a Virgin. I feel like a virgin, loved for the very first time. But later on, it was more like get out of my way, because I could do whatever I want wear whatever I want. The cone boobs. Come on,
that was the whole
crazy.
Immaculate Tour. Yeah,
The Immaculate Tour.
I
all
had
of
that on Laserdisc actually, and I used to watch and I'd memorize the dances and I'd like repeat them in my living room. And she's got these giant cone breasts and she's shaking them
she's
around,
out of her
and I'm
head.
like, my boobs will never be that big, man. I don't get it.
But we talk about religion a lot, you and me, because we're both Christian.
Yep.
But that shocked. I think the Pope kind of like said, hey.
She in the music video, she had like the crosses on and she was writhing
It was
around
Jesus,
on the bed.
like,
there was Papa Don't
kind
Preach.
of like a sexual connotation with Jesus in her music videos, which shocked the whole.
Very shocking.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And her name is Madonna.
I love Madonna.
How lovely.
I think that's her given name, though.
It is her name. It's very Italian,
but
it's the Virgin Mary in Catholic religion. So
she did every black mark against her name.
Well, I think her job was to shock.
Yeah, well, she did well.
She's still doing it.
She's still doing it. Yeah.
She's still doing it.
Still got it. Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna bridge into the 90s.
All right, let's do it.
Big song. Martina McBride.
Oh, we were talking about this.
1994. You know what it is.
We were talking about this. This ties us back full circle to our
Independence Day.
That's right.
Right, and that's the name of her song. Mm-hmm. So it's all about being in an abusive relationship. And really starts to get one of the many songs that come later. I think that was like the first big one to, revenge. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to read just a little bit of that. World gets around in a small town. They said he was a dangerous man, but Mama was proud. And the video is it's a little girl, okay? Mm-hmm. Mama was proud and she stood her ground. She knew she was on the losing end. Some folks whispered, some folks talked, but everybody looked the other way. And there you go. That was how women, nobody stood up. And when time ran out, there was no one about on Independence Day. So let freedom ring. Let there be a day of reckoning. The weak be strong, let the right be wrong, roll the stone away, let the guilty pay. It's Independence Day. And she lit up that 4th of July. Mm-hmm. By the time that the firemen came, they just put out the flames and took down some names and sent me to the county home. That's the daughter. Now, I ain't saying it's right or wrong, but maybe it's the only way. Talk about your revolution. It's Independence Day.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, I got goosebumps from that. Mm-hmm. Because, is it right or wrong? Ethically, no. Mm-hmm. You really want to, you get your drunk husband locked in a house. I don't know how many women have done it. Probably a lot. Knock the bottle of whiskey over.
It's funny.
Light a cigarette, drop it, and walk away.
So what's funny to me about this is that Martina McBride's a country singer. And I feel like, and I know it's not just country, it's rock, it's pop, it's rap, it's all kinds of things. But at least in the country genre, primarily because I listened to a lot of it, I feel like there was a lot of outspoken women. So, following that, we had, Miranda Lambert in the late 90s, early 2000s, Gunpowder and Lead, where she's like, my husband's going to be getting out of jail and I'm sitting here with my shotgun and I'm waiting for him.
Oh, yeah. She had some great kick-ass music, Miranda.
And then the other one that came to mind was Carrie Underwood. So she's got a song about two black Cadillacs. It's her and the mistress of her husband.
Oh, yeah.
And they find out about each other and they conspire and kill his ass together and plant him in the ground.
I don't remember that song.
Oh, it's a newer one.
Is that the one she was like, and I've something? And
it's from the Blown Away album. It's probably mid 2010s, 12, somewhere in there.
Oh, newer one. So it's not the one where she carved her initials in his Cadillac.
Oh, well, that's
that was
Before
another
He
song.
Cheats. Yep,
Before He Cheats, yeah.
Okay, so that was Before He Cheats. Well, in this one, he cheated and she kicked his butt and killed him. And
I love that. So it's like, hey, I'll go to jail the rest of my life if I kill my husband, but I can kill him in a song.
Yeah.
Isn't that a beautiful thing? I'll just write a song.
That's it. I love it.
The revenge stuff is really cool, Mm-hmm. It really is. I'm saying that because, hey, what woman doesn't want to get even with some nasty guy?
Right.
But seriously, we went from Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive, to 2008, Bust the Windows Out Your Car. Okay?
Which one's that?
You ever hear it? I bust the windows out your car. Never heard that
No.
song? By Jasmine, and I can't read the last name. And it's like, I did it because it left my mark. Wrote my initials with a crowbar.
So
You
it's like
should feel lucky that's all I did. After 5 whole years of this bullshit.
She must be a rap artist or
Because I'm
R&B.
gone because you played with me.
Okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
she's
know
a
that.
rapper.
Okay, all right. I didn't get into that as much.
But it's very melodic. It's not really a rap.
Okay.
But
Oh, I got nothing against it.
she's
I
a
just
black
never got
woman,
into
so
it.
it's slang.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oops. 2011 comes "Run the World" by Beyonce,
Okay.
which is really something. I love Beyonce, but I can't listen to this song because it's just like so hip hoppy, screamy, yelly. But she's up there with a bunch of women, and for the first 5 minutes, it's girls. We run this mother. Yeah, she screams that like 25 times, and it's about women running the world, and men, screw with me and look out.
Yeah.
Because women run the world. A very interesting song because it's kind of like saying, I can, what I offer you, you can't get anyplace.
Okay, so we've been focusing on all this really interesting music that's a sign of the times and what's going on. And now here we are in 2023, and we have the Supreme Court overturning Roe Wade, taking away our rights to choose how we live. Wait, hold on. Let me go back.
Unbelievable.
The right to attainable standard of physical and mental health. So I'm going to say that fits in there.
Was that one of the
That's one of our
movement?
basic rights.
Is that supposed to be one of our
It is
basic rights?
supposed to be one of our basic
women's
rights.
rights or human right?
These are basics women's rights, but I believe they are for all people. I'm going to have to look that up, but it should be. I mean, what the heck,
Well,
right?
we're still saying, Hillary Clinton said it, women's rights are human's rights. We're
That's
still
right.
saying it like it's like,
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think, what do you think of that?
I'm just in shock.
Right?
Because what's happened, and you can't help but say it's political because it is. Because, can I dare say the orange-headed man who put all, I don't know, like 3 Supreme Court justices in his 4-year stint, conservative. That's why we have the reversal of Roe versus Wade, and that was his appeasing to certain religious groups, whatever the name of that is. That's how he they basically gave him the go ahead, and in return, that's what he did.
So I guess where I get hung up is for as many women out there and men that are fighting for these basic rights and have been since the 1900s, and we're going backwards. There's as many that are fighting for us to go backwards. I
guess that's a shocking thing. That's
I just
like
don't understand.
the far right, Republican right. We got it in the House. We talked about that the last time. But yeah, it's all like, they're finding ways. Now they're, it's very sneaky. They're smart people. They're going to, get people into the state. That's the big thing now.
Why would we gain all this independence to give it back?
Why?
America's
Because who's taking it back? Men.
Just white men.
Yeah, sure. They want women to go. They don't like all the changes. They don't like,
But what about their spouses that are okay giving up their independence? I don't understand that.
Because a woman, okay, I hate to say it, girl, but there are women, not all women, who aren't as powerful as the women in the songs we just talk about. So, they lead dual lives. Like the Republicans in the House right now. I don't think Kevin McCarthy believes half the crap that comes out of his mouth, but the power that he gets. So he has to appease this extreme right five.
So you
to
think
do
they're
that.
appeasing their husbands?
No, I think it's an exchange.
Okay.
I'm a wealthy woman married to a wealthy man. Why the heck does what's-her-face stay with Orange Man?
I don't know.
You got me, so I'm like, hey, it's like you sold your soul. You sold your soul for power. You sold your soul for money. You can get anything you want. A lot of women do that.
Okay, so my question is, they have a price, I guess, right? So you're saying they gave up independence for
and I think some women truly
payout.
believe the religious thing. Talk about, Roe versus Wade. People minimize it to, the right to abortion, but it's really about women's health, and women having control over their bodies. Now we live in an age in 2023 where men, once again, want to take control of our bodies, and there are women who are with them because they're like, it's against religion in the Bible. Well, it's been in the news all over the place. Women who need to have their fetus aborted because of severe complications, they're going to die. And they can't. They can't. In some states, they have to try to go to another state. And one woman said she almost died.
Right.
Because without that abortion, she would have died because there's no way the child was going to live. But you've got these men saying, nope, it's life. It's a religious belief. It's in the Bible. That what kind of life is that? You're going to kill you're going to kill a woman? So I don't know how women wake up, the women who are pro life in the respect that I'm not even going to say pro-life because I'm pro-life.
Right.
I'm just, against taking my rights away as a woman, my reproductive rights. Why do you have a right as a man to make that judgment?
Right.
We're going backwards.
Yeah,
you got it.
That's what I'm saying is we're going backwards, and I don't understand. I can't imagine going backwards. So for example, what would you say was your first act of independence? I would say, typically it's moving out on your own, right?
Yeah, for me that was a huge thing.
Okay,
because,
so would you go back to living at home and being under your parents' rules after
no way.
gaining
We'd
that
all be
independence?
Joan Jett out there screaming on stage. Are you kidding me?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I don't understand once you've gained this level of freedom, giving it up, just
well, I don't
throwing
think
it out.
women aren't going to give it up. But, the fight continues now. It's really going to be more, outspoken of women. A lot of women, powerful women are getting out there. It's reigniting the movement, really. It is, because it's just a shocker what's happening in states. And now it's like, let's give it up to the states. So the more extreme men, few women are in politics that are extreme. I don't know what I'd like to have them call in and tell me why in God's name they would align themselves and take away their rights. I don't even think they believe half the stuff.
I don't know.
It's if you're aligning yourself with somebody as powerful as Donald Trump, then you're selling your soul. Putin, Hitler, can I just keep going? Because that's what it is.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a dangerous time.
It's
Josie?
It is.
It's dangerous times to be a woman.
I wonder what music is going to be written about
Well, it's
this.
dangerous times to be a black person. It's dangerous times to be a woman if you're a white male. And there are a lot of white males who are in alignment with us women who think it's a disgrace.
Right.
It's a disgrace to demean women in the way that it's happening. But this, come on, bring on the rage. This, it's Southern, a lot of Southern states, so it's Southern old men, probably can't get it up. And they're all making all this crap up. Come on. Come on, there's my 70s showing. Okay? I'm a liberated woman. That was the whole liberation movement. It's okay for me to say no to a man.
Right.
Just because you buy me dinner doesn't mean I have to lay down or, God forbid, get on my knees, because that ain't happening.
Oh, gross.
I'm just saying it the way it is.
Yeah. Oh, my.
Josie's, I don't know, she's blushing over there. Next time I have to have the cameras in. She's looking around like, oh no, Lulu, where are you going?
No, it's funny. No.
It's the truth, though.
Yeah.
Because a woman felt like she had to go back to, woman cannot. It's probably in the Bible, too. I think it is in the Bible that a woman could not refuse her husband. What does that mean?
Yeah, except for like certain times. You're not supposed to have no good reason, basically. If you read between the lines, that's kind of what the Bible says.
What's the reasons why you can refuse your husband?
In the Old Testament, you were unclean during your menstruation cycle.
Oh, that's another thing. My God. God made me to have a menstrual cycle so I could have children.
Right.
And that makes me unclean.
Right. So you were unclean and you were put away for like 7 or 10 days or whatever the heck it was. So that was a time. And then I don't know what else would qualify other than, sickness or, something like that.
I mean, what sickness? What do you have to be? I don't know. I'm sorry, but there are some disgusting men out there who don't care if you're sick or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I understand the argument that as like a married couple, if you're not having sex pretty regularly, you're going to start seeing some like fissures in the relationship. You're going to have some problems. The intimacy decreases, and unless you have like a really good reason for not being intimate with your partner, like it can lead to some problems.
I think, that's in any relationship, whether you're married or not.
Right.
There is that. And we go back to, who's more sexual,
I mean, typically...
the male or the women, men or women?
Typically say it was the men, but I know there are some women that are very, like, open and yahoo.
Yeah, so,
I guess it depends.
Go back to the 70s, 80s, open marriages, I don't believe in them, but hey, that's where we went. It got very loose. And I think that was part of the rebellion and a lot of the religious sectors is like, we live in the society's loose, anything goes, we got,
Yeah, well, what's funny...
He, she's, theys, it's all cuckoo.
What's funny is how, to me, the sex part of it became way blown out, more open than even the traditional roles of a male and a female. And what I mean by that is, so my husband and I started having kids young, which was not what was going on in society at this point. Like, most of my friends are in their 30s before they start getting married and having kids. I was 20 when my oldest was born.
Yeah, especially your generation. You were young.
Not only that, but my husband stayed home with the children, and I went to work. And that's very counterculture. And while you start to see that more now, it's not as common, and he still gets grief from other men.
Really?
That he's not a real
man.
He's
not macho.
Yeah, because he stayed home to take care of the kids, and he's supposed to be the head of the house, and he's supposed to make all this money. And what I don't understand is how, like, we can say, beginning in the 60s, 70s, 80s, like, blow open the marriage, blow open sex, do all this stuff, but men are still men and have to work and fulfill these roles, and women aren't supposed to do these things. And
well, that's interesting because that's the pressure that was put on to men. Are you a real man? That was a big thing in, I think, the 80s. What is a real man? Is a real man the tender guy who's supporting his wife, or is a real man the guy who's like going out and...
According to commercial television, a real guy usually has a specific type of cologne and a car and a watch. And
yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah,
Come on, let's face it. What is he? He's a stud.
He makes a lot of money. He's a stud.
Women look at him. He can, gorgeous women.
Right.
That's the thing. Is that your average guy? Is that your average woman?
Not even close.
So it's all, what we're supposed to think will get us the attractive
we
mate.
hold on to these gender roles so tightly and specifically, and it's really, we're talking about movements. I know we're talking about independence, we're talking about women's movements, but we're getting to 2023. Let's talk about it. LGBTQ, that movement has really kicked up Even bigger than it was in the 80s.
Well, I think that's why 2023 we're getting so much pushback from the right because of that movement. And because, a couple of years ago, there was a big fight to have like a transgender bathroom.
Right.
Or not a transgender bathroom, but to allow a transgender woman to go into the ladies' room, to make that okay, because that transgender woman is a woman.
Right.
But nobody wanted it in the South. We go back to the South, really, that's like, it exists in the North, too. We know that. We live in the state of Massachusetts.
There's a lot of fear around it.
A lot of fear around it, like, we go back to, homosexuality. Go back to that.
Right.
Years and years ago, if you were a homosexual, then you can't go near my child. Teachers could never say they were gay.
Right.
In the 60s or 70s, because you couldn't teach. It was against the law.
And it was only, 12 years ago that the military got rid of don't ask, don't tell. You couldn't be gay in the military.
What's the misconception that if you're a gay man, you're a child molester?
Yep.
Well, should we talk about...
Or a transgender woman that you're going to do something weird in the bathroom. That was the fear.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? That doesn't even mean you're a lesbian if you're,
Well, some transgender women could still have male genitalia, and that could be scary to a young person if they're whipping it out and
Well,
peeing.
if they're whipping it out, then they should probably be arrested for indecent exposure like
Might as well
anybody
use
else.
the men's urinal if you're going to do that. I don't know.
Well, that's because men are, slime bags, and they don't care if they whip it out in front of each other. We need doors.
My gosh, I have to confess.
So how's that?
I have to tell you this.
So if you're going to a ladies' room, we don't have urinals.
Right.
So you think that the transgender woman's going to come out of a stall and hang it out?
Well, I don't know about a transgender woman, but I will tell you a true shameful story about your pal Josie here.
Go ahead, Josie. Tell me a good one.
I was at Gillette Stadium for a Kenny Chesney concert many years ago. I was still young. Anyways, the women's restroom line was just, it was out the ball field. I was like, I'm never going to make it.
Liberated woman.
I'm never going to make it in time. The men's, they're just in and out, they're faster.
Well, I've been there.
Of course, I went into the men's room. They're all in the urinal. They're turning around. They're like, what is she doing? What is she doing?
Oh, my.
I went right in there. I didn't even care.
Right in the stall?
I needed to go.
Yeah.
I was like, this is it. I'm doing this. And they were like, what are you doing in here? I'm like, I had to go, guys. And the line in the women's room is just ridiculous. I don't know what they're doing in there. They take so long between sitting and standing.
Oh, because they're doing their hair.
They need to do some squats and get in and out faster.
Probably smoking dope and doing cocaine. Who knows?
I don't know. But I did that. And, it didn't occur to me that could be offensive to the men in the restroom. I thought, what's the big deal? They'll like it. It actually is what occurred to me.
I think it's offensive because anytime it's an invasion of privacy, so if you were a transgender man,
right,
and walked in there with a mustache and a wig, nobody would have said nothing.
Sure.
So there you go. There's still like that thing.
Well, so I guess
it's like if a man walks in. Did a man ever walk into a ladies' room?
Not since I've been there. I'm not that I can.
Well,
but I'm sure it's happened.
It's only in the movies, but. Okay, so Samantha grabs a guy into a woman's stall and they have sex. And that's in a lot of films. No, I've never seen it, wouldn't do it. And I'm like, and the women are standing around going, hey, like, excuse me. I don't think I'd be going, yay, good for you.
Yeah.
And, I don't get it.
No.
So I'm on the side of, if I'm in the ladies' room, it's for one purpose only, and no, I don't want you to peek. No peeking.
Right. Well, okay. So, but like a ladies' room, we have doors. We don't have open stalls. So I could see why the men would be more offended to have a lady walk through.
Well, they're more vulnerable, I guess.
They're more vulnerable, yeah. So I guess I sort of have a double standard on that, because in my mind, men want girls to see their penises. They're like, yeah, look at how big it is. Isn't that great? So I didn't think it was a big deal that I went through the men's room. It was just like, they got an opportunity for show and tell.
Well, I guess we got to find these guys, because who are they? Who are they?
I want to know why they
Yeah,
were
a lot of men would have, you're lucky because things might have happened.
Yeah,
It's like me and the, and the guys, whatever Greeky thing,
Oh.
where I felt vulnerable because
yes.
it's like,
Yeah, the
there's a big
house,
party and then I'm all of a sudden like, come to my room, I want to show you, and roommates are there. Hello.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I'm with
it's
you there.
vulnerable positions, and
Yeah.
if you thought about it, you were kind of putting yourself in that.
Yeah, and I didn't think of it that way. And now, as a little bit older, I wouldn't do that again. Now that I've thought, like, oh, I might have offended them, and that didn't occur to me, and that was pretty selfish.
Well, that's
thinking.
funny. I've had, I've gone into the men's room because a guy guarded the door.
Okay.
So he walked out and saw the line in this bar, when in my 20s, and he's like, there's nobody in here. I'll guard the door, girls. Go ahead.
Oh, well, that's nice.
And, we go in 2 or 3 at a time. And,
Right.
He'd guarded the door. And if a guy came, he went, okay, get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
That's
very
nice.
sweet of him.
Yeah.
But that was the circumstance.
Well, maybe that's what crossed my mind. I think men will be gentlemen and understand there's a lady who's going to pee through her shorts if she doesn't get into a
Yeah,
stall.
but it would have been nice if you asked permission.
I could have asked. I should have asked.
Maybe, Josie. That's okay. You
Live
were
and learn.
bold.
I
You're a
was
product of the 80s. This was like 90s or 2000?
2000s.
2000s.
I was in my young
There's a difference.
20s, yep.
That's right. So I don't know. Did you have sort of the same, like, dating thing? Well, you got married really young, so you probably didn't date a lot.
I dated a little bit. I started dating senior year of high school. But I was like a serial relationship girl. I didn't really go on dates. I was just with somebody or I wasn't with somebody.
Oh, so
That
you
was
weren't
kinda-
like, in my day it was like dating. That was it. You dated.
I had a couple dates, but most of the time it was relationship to a relationship. And yeah, I would say I was very open.
So was it expected?
What?
I buy you dinner and you sleep with me?
No, not
That was the 70s.
No, not really. There was a couple of guys that thought that was how it's going to go. They showed some interest, and if I showed some interest, the next thing I know, they were groping at me, and I'm like, I don't even know you. Why are you groping at me? Like it was supposed to be like immediate. Like I think you're cute, you think I'm cute. Let's just take our clothes off, and I'm not into that at all. I was like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, sort of the same thing. It's like, uncomfortable. I think it's now.
least you
It's
got
like, at least
dinner.
women got to the point where if you're uncomfortable, you say no. And, you don't feel bad about walking away.
Kinda. At least they bought you dinner first. They didn't even try that. They just immediately were coming at you. In
Yeah,
my day
well,
and
your
age.
generation, it was like now we have, men's liberation. If you're going to be a liberated woman and go out and get a job and take my job, I had to live through that through the 70s. You're taking a man's job. In other words, taking a job away from a guy who has a family. That's what I went through because I was like a businesswoman. And, a woman working with a career was frowned upon. You just took a job from a guy. So, the world has changed, but with a lot of fighting, like you said, we're still fighting. Now we still got to fight. Women's losing a right to her own, health. What kind of crap is that?
Yeah, I don't.
So I stand firm. It's Independence Day every day.
Yeah, woo!
Speak up.
That's
Get
it.
loud. Be
That's it.
proud. All those things.
I love it. I think we've said it all. We're going to talk about women's rights time and time again because we're both
women. It's what's happening in politics today is disgusting. And it's a frightening time, It just is. We've got, an ex-president who, now they want to erase. I mean, the whole thing is crazy. They want to expunge, which was never, ever heard of before, his what was he? Twice.
impeached.
Yeah. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Speaker of the House are like, yeah, it should be expunged because, what is this foolishness? We're just going off track. That's what they do. It's sort of like it is a really old Republican tactic. The Democrats are going this way. The Republicans are going to go so far off base to distract you that you're not even looking at the real issue. The real issue, talk about Independence Day in this country, the real issue is if this ex-president isn't held accountable for stealing secrets and putting us into jeopardy, if this does not happen, then where is this country? Are we really a democracy? Because I know Republicans hate that word, but the country is a democracy. What does it mean? People vote. That's what it means. So not only will women's rights be taken away, men's rights will be taken away because we'll live under, a Putin. It's true.
I know. Just the way you said it, just...
Pootie. I call affectionately Pootie, an orange man. Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Let's throw Hitler in there. Okay.
Okay.
I've gone a little far.
All right.
Not far enough, though.
On that happy note, let's wrap this with a how are you going to celebrate Independence Day this year, my friend? What's your big?
Well, every 4th of July, my father loved this country. He really did. He respected it, and he considered himself an American, even though he spent 15 years of his life in his homeland. So I have a party, a family party. That's how I spend it. We all, get together and respect this country and what it gave. My family,
Great.
went from, dirt floor when my father grew up, lived with the animals downstairs, the way he described it, with nothing in poverty, to where I am today, college educated. Sorry, guys, took jobs away, blah, blah, blah. So, I owe a lot to my dad who had the courage and to this country that gave him that opportunity as an immigrant. So that's what I think of.
That's great.
I'm trying not to think of, the other stupid stuff. It's not stupid, though.
No.
It isn't. Women's rights is still
people's
still
rights.
A fight.
It's people's rights, everybody's rights. We got to hold precious dear to all people's rights.
Yeah, well, mostly, people of color, LGBTQ people, women, those are the people who are still minority in this country because it's still run by powerful white men and some women who are latching on to these men for the power. They don't care about women. They don't care about anybody. You asked the question, that's the truth. You think Marjorie Taylor Greene cares about anybody but herself?
I don't know.
No, she's probably out getting an abortion right now. Okay, you were wrapping it up, Josie.
I was. Oh, man. So that's all, that's it. I'm going to just leave it on
That's it.
note of positivity and hope everyone has a happy
Independence Day.
Whatever that means to you.
Excellent. So,
That's it.
here we go.
Shit.
She's out.
She's done.
Bye. Down.
Bye.